Story of two best friends, Jake and Ryan, one striving for success, the other caught in the shadows of envy. But one moment will change everything. Jake and Ryan had been best friends for as long as they could remember. Growing up together, they shared everything: school projects, childhood dreams, and countless memories. However, as they got older, something changed. Ryan, who had always been naturally gifted, started to shine in ways Jake never could. Ryan excelled in academics, sports, and became the favorite of their teachers. On the other hand, Jake struggled. No matter how hard he worked, he felt like he could never measure up to his friend's success. While Ryan's popularity and achievements seemed to grow, Jake's life appeared to be stuck in place. He began to resent Ryan, although he never admitted it, even to himself. Every time Ryan succeeded, Jake couldn't help but feel a twinge of jealousy. He thought, why is everything so easy for him? Why can't I be successful like Ryan? The jealousy grew stronger each day, and instead of pushing him to work harder, it pulled him further into a spiral of self-doubt and frustration. Jake tried everything to break free from this feeling, but the more he compared himself to Ryan, the worse it got. He started to feel like a failure. He was trapped in a cycle of jealousy, convinced that the only way to be happy was to be as successful as his friend. However, the harder he tried, the more he failed. One day, feeling utterly defeated, Jake heard a rumor in town about a wise sage who lived in a small hut on the outskirts. The sage was known for his ability to help people find clarity and peace. Desperate for a solution, Jake decided to visit him. He hoped the sage would have the answers he needed to stop feeling jealous and find success in his own life. The sage, an elderly man with wise, gentle eyes, welcomed Jake into his humble home. Jake immediately poured out his heart, telling the sage about his struggles and how he couldn't understand why his life wasn't turning out as he had hoped. I try so hard, but I can never succeed like Ryan. He's always better at everything. I can't seem to catch a break, Jake confessed, his voice heavy with frustration. The sage nodded slowly, acknowledging Jake's pain. But instead of offering advice right away, the sage simply said, "Let me tell you a story." Jake, eager for answers, listened attentively as the sage began. There were once two trees planted side by side in a large field. The first tree grew tall and strong, its branches stretching high toward the sky. It was full of life and beauty. The second tree, however, spent most of its time looking at the first tree, wishing it could be just like it. It thought, why can't I be tall and strong like that tree? Why does it get all the sunshine and water while I am just here, small and weak? Jake listened intently, wondering where the story was going. The second tree, consumed by its jealousy, spent so much time comparing itself to the first tree that it failed to grow. Instead of focusing on its own roots, its own leaves, and its own growth, it watched the first tree and felt bitter. Eventually, the second tree withered, its branches drooping, while the first tree continued to grow strong and tall, not because it was better, but because it focused on its own growth. The sage paused and looked at Jake. Now tell me, young man, do you think it was the first tree's fault that the second tree failed to grow? Jake thought for a moment, then answered slowly, "No, I suppose it wasn't. The second tree didn't grow because it was too busy looking at the first tree instead of focusing on its own growth." The sage nodded approvingly. "Exactly. Jealousy is like poison, my friend. It doesn't hurt the person you envy. It harms only you. The second tree could have grown just as tall and strong if it had focused on its own roots, its own needs. But because it spent all its time comparing itself to the first tree, it stopped growing altogether." Jake's heart skipped a beat. He finally understood what the sage was trying to teach him. His jealousy of Ryan had been holding him back, not Ryan's success. He had spent so much time comparing himself to his friend, envying his achievements, that he had failed to focus on his own growth. It wasn't Ryan's fault he hadn't succeeded. It was his own. "I've been so focused on Ryan's success," Jake said, his voice soft with realization. I've been so jealous that I never saw what was right in front of me, my own potential. The sage smiled gently. When you spend all your time focusing on someone else's journey, you miss your own. You cannot grow by comparing yourself to others. You must focus on your own path, your own progress. Only then will you find true success. Jake left the sage's home that day with a newfound sense of clarity. He realized that his jealousy had not only clouded his judgment, but had also kept him from achieving what he truly wanted in life. He understood that he needed to stop comparing himself to Ryan and start focusing on his own growth. From that moment on, Jake changed his mindset. Instead of resenting Ryan's success, he used it as inspiration. He stopped worrying about what others were doing and started focusing on his own skills and talents. He worked harder, learned new things, and took steps every day to improve himself. Slowly but surely, his life began to change. While he didn't become exactly like Ryan, he found his own success and happiness. Years later, Ryan visited Jake's new shop, surprised by the transformation in his friend. "You've really turned things around, Jake," Ryan said with a smile. Jake grinned back. "I finally stopped looking at your tree and started growing my own." The story of Jake and Ryan beautifully illustrates that focusing on one's own path, rather than comparing oneself to others, leads to personal growth and success. This aligns with the philosophy of Orson Swett Marden, who believed that the golden opportunity you are seeking is in yourself. Moral of the story: jealousy doesn't hurt others. It only prevents you from growing. Focus on your own path, and success will follow.